Yo. Right, so this is going to be a quick explanation of layers for someone on the forums. Hopefully I can make this quick. Anyways, my dude, layers. Let's run the game. So you want to know about layers and making stuff transparent. I hope this is recording right. Okay, so here's my game, right? There's a bunch of stuff going on. Let's move. So you got the UI at the top, right? You got these bars. You got the level. You have this, which is the menu system. You got items. You have all this stuff, right? You have the little character moving. You have these things on the wall, and then you have that background that moves whenever I move. Right? So you have all these things, right? So if you notice, like the background moves at a different pace than this stuff, right? And these things, they stay in place. They never move. Right? So what's happening? So these are layers. So each element you're looking at. So the game itself, the place that you play and do stuff, and the enemies are moving and your enemies are colliding, all this stuff is happening. This is one layer. This is what I call the base layer. Right? This is where the game happens. These things, the UI, the bars and stuff, they're on a different layer that goes on top of this one. And the stuff in the background, that image, is on a layer that goes behind this one, right? So, for example, the stairs, right? The cave stuff is behind these stairs. And this bar, right? This blue bar is in front of the stairs. So these are just all things on top of each other. Let me show you. So down here, you have the editor, right? This is where you're making your game. Okay, so this is one layer. Down here, you have the layers. Let me zoom in. You have a button here where you add the layers. And the layers are in order. This is what you see, for example. So the background, this one you can't do anything about. Your game is going to have one exactly like this one. This is just the flat color you see in the back. You can leave it empty. I make it blue so I can actually see, because I don't like bright things. As you can tell, like it's that color. So this is the one that stays right all the way in the back, right? Then one above that is the one I call the background image. This is where I create the cave thing that was going on in the background, moving back and forward. Then on top of that, we have the base layer. You're also going to have one of these because you got to have one base and one background at least, right? You can add the rest. So the base layer is where all this stuff is happening, right? This is where I create all this stuff. So you can check, for instance, if I click this jelly enemy and I go here on the side, there's all the parameters. You can actually see where is it? Oh, good lord. Here we go. Where the enemy actually is, where that sprite is. See, you can select here. Layer, base layer. You can put them in a different layer if you want. So this is the base layer. So on top of that, I have the lighting layer, which is how the lighting works. On top, I have these layers that you can't really see because these are the menus. These only show up when I tell them to. All this stuff is only when I tell it to. And then you have the basic UI, which is right on top, right? Which is where I keep the bars and stuff. The reason you're like, okay, but where is it right now? Like, why can't I see it here? The reason is a bit more complicated. It's because I'm creating all the objects in the UI when the game starts. That's a more advanced concept. Don't worry about that. Like when I started making the game, I just made the UI right here, right? Just make sure that if you don't want your bars to move, you make a layer for your UI, then you select it, or you put the bars here and then you click your bars and then you select send it to your UI, whatever, right? The point is, I'm trying to explain the concept of layers, not how to use them. So this stuff is like, it's on top of each other, right? It's like an onion or whatever. I didn't want to say onion, but whatever. Right? This is all on top of each other, and it goes by order. So the background, the flat color, all the way in the back. Then on top, you have the image. You can't see because I'm creating it at the start. And then you have the game, where I actually make the game happen. And then on top of that, you have the lighting layer. And then on top, you have a different one. And then on top, you have the different one, right? And all these layers, they're transparent. So you're asking, like, how can I make the background transparent? This is how. All of these are transparent. And all you got to do to make the layer is go down here and just click. Oh, God, where's my mouse? Click here. Create new layer. And that's it. You're done. You made a layer. And then you can actually drag and drop these. So, for example, which ones can I move? All right, let's make everything disappear, right? So we got this one, the background image. So that was the cave image I had in back. So I'm going to click here. I'm going to drag it on top of the base game. You're like, you didn't see any change here because I told you. I create the image that you see in the back when the game starts. Now let's start the game. And because now the layer's on top, you're not going to see the game. You're just going to see the image. See? Where's my game? Where is game? Game is no here. What happened? But you see, since the UI layer is still on top of this one, you can still see the UI, right? The game's just gone. And then I have a different one that's for the damage numbers. So that one's still over. So let me see if I can find an enemy. Okay, see the numbers still popping up? Because that layer is still on top of the other ones. Right? So that's how layers work. That's what you mean by transparent stuff. All of these are transparent. The only one that's like solid is the one all the way in the back. So now to fix it, I just grab it, background image, and I put it back to behind the game. If I were to move the layer that says lighting behind the game, it will just break stuff. It would be more complicated to explain. Let's take the basic UI. And that won't really make much of a difference. Or wait, yeah, you can still see it. So let's grab the basic UI and put it behind the game. Bum 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 ba-dum ba-dum. Not sing too much, otherwise people get upset at me. See? Now the bars, they're behind the stuff. Like, look at that. That bar that was in front of this, of the stairs, now it's behind the stairs. Like, see? They still don't move, right? Because I'll explain that in a sec. For now, you just need to understand the concept of, it's behind the game now. And as you can tell, so the base layer, it's transparent, right? Because if it wasn't transparent, you wouldn't be able to see that with the bars in the back. See? So every layer is transparent except the one in the back. So you can make cool stuff with this, right? Instead of having the background image, like I have, like just one static image, you could put stuff in the back, right? I could make a bunch of these guys, like the little jellies, make like a platform, and then just make a move back and forward while I'm playing the game, and you can see them like all the way in the distance, like moving. You know, you could do cool stuff with this. So it's like perception, right? So it's just let me see. Let me put this before I forget. Because then I'm gonna forget I moved this, and I'm gonna be like, why is my bars acting weird? And it's gonna take a little while before I go, oh, because I changed it. Alright, basic UI. So this is just like real life, right? This is like having, you know, you sit at the table and you put an orange in front of you. And then you put the glass of water after the orange, and then you put a banana after the glass of water, right? It's in order, right? And you're seeing it in front of you, so you can see like it's like the layers, right? I don't know. This is a bad analogy. Maybe I'm hungry. Anyways, I hope you got that. So the camera thing, like, so now you're wondering why is the game moving, right? But the bars aren't, or why is nothing moving except for the game? And that's because each layer, each one of these has a camera, and the cameras are following the layer in a way, right? So they all start on top of each other. So because this one moves, it's because my camera is following my character. And the camera that's following the character, it's the camera from the base layer. So that's why this layer is moving, because I told the camera to move. And these ones aren't. They're staying in the same place because their camera is not following anything. It's not moving. It's staying in that place. Hopefully that makes sense. It's, if you're a complete beginner, if you just pick this stuff up, none of this is going to make sense. And you're going to look at the word tween and you're going to be like, oh my God, what is that? And you're going to start hearing people talk about variables and you're going to be like, what the hell is a variable? What is this thing? What is this concept? It's so scary, right? But do it little by little, experiment, make a game just to experiment, and try all this stuff out, and you start getting more familiar with it, and then you're going to start loving it, and you're going to start understanding how everything works. This game didn't start out as a game. It started out called Test Project. And it was just me putting platforms down, making a character move back and forward. And then I started making it little by little. Like, okay, how do I make a UI? And then I was like, ooh, layers. What is a layer? And then I added one layer. It was just the base and the background. And then I added one layer that I called basic UI. And then I started putting the bars on. You can't see it, but I'll show it anyways. So it's in an external event. You're going to learn about these later. But for now, you don't have to make this in an external event. All right, game menu, background, basic UI. So this is some of the stuff that's hidden in the back. Don't mind the letters, right? These are the bars that you saw. So you could just make these on a different layer on the game and they would move, right? So this was my layer, basic UI, before I started using external events. I just copy pasted here afterwards. Don't mind this. I was just showing you. So this is a different layer. You might be like, okay, this is confusing. What the hell is an external event and why are you using it instead of just putting it on the layer that you're talking about. And the reason for that is quite simple. It's because it gets messy. So, when you have a bunch of stuff, like on your different layers, like at the beginning, it's fine. You start creating the game and everything's hunky dory, right? And then you're like, okay, I'm going to make a UI. So you start making the UI on the basic layer, right? The basic UI layer. But it shows here. It shows over the game. It shows here. And you're like, okay, it's fine. It's just a couple of bars. But when you start adding a bunch of text and a bunch of stuff, it's like you can't edit the game anymore because there's so much stuff. And you can hide and show these layers. But again, so much effort. And that's where external events come in. But that's an advanced concept, I suppose. For now, just get the concept of layers, like what goes under what, and why is it transparent, and all that stuff. Mess around with it. You're gonna have fun. I hope that makes sense, right? I try my best. I just woke up. I'm sorry. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you got that made some sort of sense in your head. And yeah, if you need any more help, just let me know. All right, peace out.